Welcome to another Blackwell video and seminar. So this time on Cryptocurrency 101. Before we go into the topic, let's have a quick look at the risk disclaimer. Risk warning. Forex and CFDs are leveraged products, involve a high level of risk and can result in the loss of all your invested capital. Therefore, Forex and CFDs may not be suitable for all investors. You should not risk more than you are prepared to lose. Before deciding to trade, please ensure you understand the risks involved and take into account your level of experience. Seek independent advice if necessary. So basically, if you feel uncomfortable, with that disclaimer, please feel free to talk to the account representative at Blackwell. They'll surely be very happy to help you with any questions you may have. So today's topic is supposed to, partly hopefully while you're watching it right now, to give you an educational overview of the offerings, give you some hints where you maybe want to spend a bit more time and less time, but also it's something for the archive almost, right? Where you if you want to go back and understand the specific requirements of one of the cryptocurrencies, that you have a look and revisit this again. Because that's why I used this Bitcoin chart again, is everybody's talking about Bitcoin, but there is so much else out there in terms of cryptocurrencies, and Blackwell has kindly expanded its portfolio to also embrace the opportunities on behalf of the clients that are out there, and that's something we want to discuss. Bitcoin, I think, has been amazingly popular and successful, and partly because of the marketing that surrounds it. And you can see the golden coin that looks like a coin, has the golden color, and looks a bit like a US dollar, and other currencies also use the stable lines that go vertically through it. So, but we should not forget that there's a lot else out there, of which we can, take advantage of, and we should. And that's what I attempt to do in this session today. I attempt to give you an overview of what else is available. When you open your Blackwell MetaTrader 4, you should be able to see the Blackwell cryptocurrencies in the Market Watch window in MetaTrader. If you don't have that, just go to View and add the Market Watch window. If you still can't find the cryptocurrencies by scrolling down in that window, I recommend that you do two things. One would be to right-click into that list and then click on Show All. That should reveal everything that is being transmitted through the data feed from Blackwell. If that's still not available, you may want to just reinstall your MetaTrader 4 by downloading it again from Blackwell. If it still doesn't show, or your third option would be you have to talk to Blackwell, because they are there and they are for you to trade and in demo and live. So please take advantage of that. What you will see is maybe for the first time, the list of financial instruments looks a bit confusing. So that's what you will see for the first time. And I've expanded that picture of what you see in the Market Watch window to give you an overview of all the instruments that can be traded. Let's start from the top. So you have three versions of Bitcoin that are available against three currencies. So they're denominated either in Euro, GBP, or US dollar. That's a very good starting point to get access to the Bitcoin. Also for folks out there who may focus on trading kind of Bitcoin in exchanges in the most physical way you can trade it. It's quite interesting to have a look at CFDs, both from a margin requirement, from the liquidity, regulation, all these perspectives. You may find it interesting to look into this opportunity. Don't worry, we will go through each of the cryptocurrencies in sufficient detail, in this session. And I will just to give you an overview go through that list. DSH is called Dash. Define a bit more what that actually means. EMC, ETH, Ethereum is available against Euro, US dollar, but you can also, if you are somebody who's interested in correlations, co-integrations and whatnot, you can have a look at ETHBTC. And I would also recommend that you look at one of the corresponding sessions that Paul Wallace has conducted to that topic when he's talking about short and swing trading strategies in cryptocurrencies. We talk also a lot about correlation. So that's what that is. ETHBTC, Ethereum against Bitcoin. LTCBTC for me is the most interesting one because there is a correlation between the Litecoin and the Bitcoin for good reasons. You can also trade Litecoin against the euro and the US dollar. Finally, we have two more. We have the Ripple against the US dollar and euro, and we have XMR. I will show you in a moment what exactly that means and what it stands for and what its advantages are. So this is the first step in terms of 101. This is how you get the cryptocurrencies into your MetaTrader, and then you can just open a chart as if you were to trade any currency or any of the indices or commodities that are available through Blackwell. Let's dive right into it, and a bit of a word of warning. It is quite technical. There's no way around it, and I try to make it hopefully as accessible as possible. First of all, Bitcoin, you all heard of it, and it's by far the most popular cryptocurrency out there, has already been issued and introduced back in 2008, 2009, when it came onto the market. So it's well established, and as you will see in a moment, it also has by far the highest level of market capitalization, and that's, as a trader, something I'm quite interested in. You know, what really attracts the big flows of money on the planet, because that's something then we can take advantage of. Then next one, Litecoin. I think that what brings it really to life is if Bitcoin is gold, Litecoin is silver, right? And Litecoin basically is an improved version of Bitcoin. As with everything kind of that's new, that has been around for a long time, there are opportunities to improve it. And Litecoin is an attempt to do that for traders, and you will see that in a moment. What I find really fascinating about Litecoin is you have much more improved margin and other trading requirements, which make Litecoin from a trading perspective just so much more accessible, which is great. And two more. We have Ethereum. Ethereum has been amazingly successful in the cryptocurrency space. Why? Because it has brought a dramatic innovation into the market, and that's also when I talk about kind of security in cryptocurrencies and cybersecurity. That's something that I also brought up there. Basically, in a nutshell, what it is, Ethereum gives us the ability to save much more data into a blockchain, to set up much more complex transactions, and that drastically increases the applicability in the market. You know, and blockchain is something that is not only explored in FX trading or in cryptocurrency trading, in CFD trading, it's much more explored in every business in the planet in automotive industry, in the financial services sector, in the insurance sector, and that's where a high degree of flexibility in terms of what kind of data to put into a blockchain is much appreciated, and that's why Ethereum is so unbelievably successful right now, and you will see it in a moment when I talk about the market capitalization of each of these cryptocurrencies. The fourth one, very exciting news for us traders. The Ripple, the background to Ripple is a so-called real-time gross settlement system. The change or the switch here with the Ripple is that you don't have the distributed ledger approach. You have kind of one central ledger in its simplified form, but everybody can see the ledger. And that's obviously very different. When you go to your bank, you can't see what's in the ledger. With Ripple, you can. And the whole idea is that all the participants, both private people and institutions, have insight into that comprehensive ledger and can thereby validate it, in a way become part of it. But one ledger versus thousands and hundreds of thousands of ledgers means that transactions can flow quicker, can settle quicker. And for us as trader, that's what we want, right? We want liquidity on one side, and on the other side, we want very good, sharp market execution. At the end of the day, that's what we're looking for, because we want to have quick execution in day trades, especially if we want to go for, you know, the tiniest of moves. You want to scalp it. That's why you would rather go for Ripple than a Bitcoin, because not only can you get kind of in a more affordable way into the market, but also, you know, the system that's behind this is much more designed to facilitate and support rapid execution of trades. So these four are really the established one. From a market capitalization, and you will see it in a moment, just taking Bitcoin and Ethereum together, that already probably exceeds the market capitalization of all the other cryptocurrencies. If you add Ripple, then for sure. It for sure exceed the market capitalization of any other of hundreds of cryptocurrencies that are out there. But nevertheless, also the smaller ones, smaller in sense of existing market capitalization, and we're talking at least hundreds of millions, if not billions, but they present also an opportunity because maybe they have not gone through that kind of growth curve, and that's what everybody's looking for, that next unicorn of a cryptocurrency that's going through that amazing growth curve that we've seen in the past so many times now. Let me walk you through the three additional coins that are available. Emercoin. It's quite reliable coin when you look at it. It's quite robust and scalable, user-friendly system. However, it has much lower market cap, so it still tries to find its true market. It's not kind of complete punt, right? But the lower market capitalization is significant if you compare it with the likes of Bitcoin and Co. The next one is Monero. Quite interesting. What Monero does is they focus specifically on security and making sure that the transactions are highly encrypted and thereby making them completely anonymous. So in other words, if you look at a transaction in a normal Bitcoin blockchain, you would have an identifier on one side and an identifier on the other side and all the additional information that is part of that transaction. But the two identifiers, kind of the two people represented by the numbers, they could see each other. The approach with Monero is that that information is also highly encrypted, and that's why there's much less visibility going on in this setup. But the main point is the security, the anonymity, that people can transact in full confidence. It also has approached the mining process in a fairer way. What I mean with that, have a look at one of the sessions where I talk about blockchain, where I talk long about how does mining actually work. It's the reward for compressing data in a blockchain, basically. And that can be dominated by the ones who have the highest processing power in an unfair way. And that's why making mining fair is obviously also something that can attract more miners, kind of making the system more robust by putting in it more shoulders. And the third one on Blackwell's list is Dash. I think it is a clever name, I have to admit, for kind of digital transactions. Its transactions are fast, quite user-friendly and scalable. The big differentiator with Dash is that its infrastructure and the rewarding process for providing that infrastructure, because as you remember, the infrastructure is provided by participants who become part of the blockchain, who become part of that cryptocurrency. It's spread across more things than just mining. It also you also get rewarded for providing infrastructure, in other words, master nodes, and also treasury. Why treasury? What I mean with that? Look, even there's a lot of money flowing around, but there always needs to be enough capital to keep the system going. There needs to be enough capital there to make sure that there is liquidity to settle trades, for example. And that is something that Dash has explicitly embraced and rewards it also if you provide that service within its network. I mean, it's quite clever because in essence, it makes it more independent and less dependent on some large players, something that you could easily imagine with Bitcoin or let's say Litecoin, who need a lot of processing power. And finally, what Blackwell also makes available to you guys is, and ladies, of course, is crypto correlations. That's quite clever. If you are somebody who's interested in trading co-integration or correlation strategies in cryptocurrencies, you maybe don't want to trade two separate currencies, but you want to go for a correlation. What I mean with that, if I just may use an example from the FX arena, if you trade euro US dollar on one side and euro or GBP US dollar on the other side, in many cases, if you kind of go long one and short the other, in many cases you trade euro GBP, and that is something the point I want to make. You can trade this directly through the crypto correlations that are available as pairs through Blackwell. But more on that in a moment. I have to warn you, it's getting a little bit technical, but I think you have to go through it once, and feel free to revisit the recording of this session, because I think it's quite valuable also when you think about using your scarce trading capital in the best way. You may want to have full visibility in terms of what are the margin requirements and other requirements that I have to go through before I can open a trade. Because that can be drastically different between, let's say, a Bitcoin and a Litecoin, as you will see in a moment. Before you do that, quick recap on the market cap. So how much money is already allocated in the cryptocurrencies that are made available via Blackwell? And the number one is Bitcoin. By far the number one. When you look at the number, more than 140 billion of US dollars already allocated in Bitcoin. Obviously, that's big news, right? That is really a lot of money. If you want to run a fund, you would also recognize that as a lot of money. And fund managers have started to get very interested in Bitcoin. Let's go to the next one, Dash. You see the market capitalization is significant with 3 billion, but definitely less. So that provides other opportunities, right? Dash is kind of up and coming and it's quite popular. So maybe that's something. I'm not giving you any trading advice, but some people will look for maybe a more strategy kind of geared towards a long strategy and looking for setbacks and opportunities to go for it. Just saying, doesn't have to come that way. Emercoin is kind of already even 2 steps behind or 10 steps behind Dash with a comparably small market capitalization of 100 million, but already sufficient market capitalization for trading. Ethereum, that's the second biggest one. I was talking about the opportunity of running smart blockchain contracts through Ethereum. That's what makes it so popular. LTC, Litecoin, little sister to Bitcoin, lower margin requirements, as you will see in a moment, but highly correlated with Bitcoin. Quite interesting one with 8 billion, quite adequately capitalized. Ripple, XRP, huge success of Ripple, especially with traders. You can see the success represented in the numbers, 27 billion of market cap. That's quite something. So it will be quite interesting to see how Ripple develops in the future. But great, because you have, as you see in a moment, low margin requirements, quick execution of trades. That's fantastic. Monero, XMR, with 3 billion, kind of on par with Dash. Let's see how that one develops. But as you can see from that list, you can appreciate that different cryptocurrencies have completely different profiles in terms of expectations in the future. Also, when we now translate it into CFD trading, the definition of one lot that you surely know from FX trading. If I trade one lot euro US dollar, I trade 100,000 US dollars. When I trade a lot in cryptocurrencies, that can look quite different. So brokers also have to think about how do they manage their risk and kind of how do they offer it to the market. So the maximum trading size for a Bitcoin, or a lot for in Bitcoin is 1 Bitcoin, right? It's very different for Dash, where you can trade up to at 10, not up to. The right formulation is you have to trade 10 Dash represent one lot, and it will become quite clear when you in a moment look at margin requirements, why that is actually important to appreciate that. Emercoin, and I group it with Ripple for a moment, they have different lot requirements because they can be traded in much smaller increments, and the nominal value is much lower. Ripple, for example, is typically below $1, €1. Let's see what happens in the future, but that enables us as traders to really trade them like currencies on a day trading level or swing trading basis. Ethereum, Litecoin, and Monero kind of all come together, kind of very similar from that perspective, and one lot is represented by 10 of each of these coins. Boom! Now you maybe say like, oh my god, this is a chart that's hard to read, a tape that's hard to read. Don't worry, you don't need to get your glasses out. We go through each of cryptocurrencies kind of block by block, not one by one. And I really encourage you to at least go through this exercise once. You probably need to do it 2 or 3 times to suddenly develop a bit of a better understanding of each of the cryptocurrencies. It's definitely worth it, although it's probably not the sexiest thing on the planet. Here we go. I grouped for you the Bitcoins in sense of Bitcoin versus the 3 different currencies. That can be quite interesting if you also have a kind of a sense of strength and weakness of US dollar, euro, GBP. If you believe the US dollar will go through the roof and you are short Bitcoin, that could be quite interesting kind of kicker effect that you may experience when in trading the BTC. Or maybe you have similar expectations for euro, GBP, especially GBP, knock on wood, as we're all based in London. Let's go through it at least once, kind of in its completeness and entirety. So I have the 3 different cryptocurrencies: BTCEUR, BTCGBP, BTC US dollar. They can be traded in 2 digits behind the comma. And interestingly enough, you don't have to go like for the full lot or the full contract size. You can trade a minimum contract, which is 0.01 of that lot, and you, in a moment ago, you've seen that one lot is represented by 1 Bitcoin. That's why the calculation is very easy and very clear here. Trading hours are kind of early Monday morning until late Friday, as you would know it, round the clock. With similar to FX, you can select your base currency. And let's just use this one example on the bottom, and I've highlighted that as with 9,251. So the margin requirement, 50% margin requirement, is half of that, as we stay in US dollars. That's why the numbers don't change. 1 BTC is 1 lot, and that's why we have 4,626 also as the margin requirement to trade a full Bitcoin. So for somebody who trades physical Bitcoin, that's probably quite exciting, because that reduces your margin requirement that you have in the currency or in the cryptocurrency stock exchange or cryptocurrency exchange where you're trading. And if this is not that, it doesn't stop there. If you want to appreciate that you can break it down into smaller increments. So the minimum contract size is actually 0.01. That means you can start Bitcoin trading already from 46 US dollars. And that's quite exciting news, isn't it? So with a high volatile financial instrument, you have very low costs to access that financial instrument. And it's probably also worth to have a look at kind of the current spread requirements and the current leverage, as that is kind of being adapted right now. The next one is Dash. Dash is quite interesting. You can trade it in a more familiar style. It has 4 digits behind the comma. It is a margin requirement as well of 50%. Minimum contract is 0.01. You remember that the contract size a lot is represented by 10 dash. And that's why when you go that list right to the end, you can see that the margin requirements to trade a full lot of 10 dash is 2,600 US dollars. But given the beauty of CFDs, you can trade it in much smaller increments, and it starts at 27 US dollar, which I think is quite exciting news. So that's that list, and you see DSHBTC, so you can also do the same trading Dash versus Bitcoin, which is something I quite frankly haven't seen anywhere else. So I think Blackwell is definitely among the first movers here, which I find quite interesting. If you are interested in learning more about co-integration correlation strategies, have a look at the webinar that's already ready to go and to be watched, and also check out the indicators that Blackwell Global has created just for its customers, so fully proprietary indicators. EMCUSD, the Emercoin, you remember, was the one with lower market capitalization, surely could be a bit more prone to spikes. That's something we want to have a look at and be very careful of. Kind of also quite exciting market entry requirements for you from a margin perspective. You can, when you go all the way to the right, you can start trading it from $17. And obviously the number changes, right? Don't get me wrong, if when the value goes up, the margin requirement changes. So this is kind of a snapshot, but I've taken it from a fairly high base. Also make sure that the numbers don't look radically different if you see the recording of this maybe in a couple of weeks' time. Ethereum, super popular, more than 70 billion market cap. Ethereum can be traded against currencies, euro and US dollars, but you can also, if you wish so, find arbitrage or a correlation opportunity. That's probably a better way of putting it. Margin requirements similar to the others, actually same for every cryptocurrency right now, is 50%. You can, if you go for a full lot size, trade 10 coins, but you can break it down to 0.01, which is surely good news, because that will also help you then with the minimum margin requirement, which takes it down to $34, right? $34, which is surely good news for people who want to trade Ethereum, because that's much more affordable, much more affordable than the hundreds you have to spend, like more than 500, regardless if it's US dollar or euro. Looking at that pricing that I picked for today, so that's great news, because that makes your use of a capital much more efficient. Obviously, all the risk disclaimers apply. Litecoin, the little sister to Bitcoin. That's the point I wanted to make. If you remember, what I showed you on Bitcoin, how quote unquote expensive it is to trade Bitcoin. I think that's great news that you can also have a look at Litecoin. Just from left to right, you can trade Litecoin against Bitcoin, because we do know there is a correlation there. We also know that Blackwell has a proprietary indicator to help you measure and gauge correlations. Again, I encourage you to have a look at that webinar. It's quite interesting what Paul Wallace has put together there. So you can trade Litecoin against Bitcoin directly as a cryptocurrency pair. I'm personally quite excited about that. It's not just we have to mix old and new worlds, but now we can basically trade the new world on its own, LTCBTC. Super exciting that Blackwell has included that in its product portfolio. And margin per full lot, which is 10 LTCs, is roughly around 800, given the current pricing levels in that demo here. But as you can only trade, if you want to, only an increment of that or a fraction of that, it starts with 8. So $8 is enough to kind of get started trading LTC with Blackwell, which I think is very exciting news for many traders out there. I think it's two more. One very popular one with traders, and you see immediately why is Ripple. From left to right, you see that the digits, 4 digits, we like that. That's a bit like currency trading. We're quite used to that. Same margin requirements. Contract size, 1,000. So 1,000 ripples represent one lot. That means very competitive margin requirements. You have a look on the right, far into the right, kind of the smallest trade we can open here. And I rounded the numbers. Is it US dollars, $5 to open a trade with 1 ripple? I think that's pretty cool, and gives you immediate access to the markets if you wish so. And we know that Ripple with 27-ish billion market cap is one of the really interesting ones. And I talked about the different more centralized system, which make Ripple so relevant for the trading community. And the last one is Monero. And the Monero is one that we can trade not against the currency, but as a correlation against Bitcoin. If you want to trade full lot, that's 10 Moneros against Bitcoin. It's a margin requirement of roughly 1,500 on that pricing level. But if you kind of want to look at the minimum requirement, that is much more accessible with $15 at the pricing levels indicated here on the screen. So you can see the overview that I've given you from Bitcoin over Dash, over Ethereum and so forth, Litecoin, Ripple. Hopefully you start getting a feeling of kind of the different levels of maturity, liquidity, and nature of cryptocurrencies. And that is important if you start kind of framing your view on how do you want to trade it. The more liquid ones, the more established ones, probably a bit more akin to the more established currency pairs that we know. Now, obviously, you need to adapt your technical analysis, but that's probably kind of the mind frame you wanna use. And then secondly, if you have the ones that have lower market capitalization but a very promising story, so maybe there is a lot of upside there, and you are looking for the nice setbacks, right? Where you can maybe get in on a move. Obviously, I would always trade with my stops in place and all that, but it's a very different way of approaching it. And you would not trade a US dollar as you would trade Turkish lira against the Brazilian currency, right? Just to give you an idea how I would compare it. We've seen also the competitive margin requirements from Blackwell. Also have a look at the current kind of target spreads and swap and all these costs. So it's obviously other important elements to also take into consideration. But I hope I was able to give you a flavor of what is available and also be very specific in what's the story of each of the cryptocurrencies that are available through Blackwell. And again, down to the numbers as they are important. How much of your scarce trading capital do you need to use to execute a trade with Blackwell? And the final comment I'd make is, if people are here watching this who are focused more on trading cryptocurrencies through exchanges, have a look at the CFDs, because also CFDs in how they've been born and where they come from also have opened the door for a lot of traders who maybe would have otherwise traded kind of real currencies or real indices or real stocks. And suddenly there is an opportunity to do two things. One is in a regulated environment to trade cryptocurrencies at with quite some attractive capital requirements, because you have leverage and you have all that, right? And also there is a high level of security that you can execute a trade, because that's what that CFD environment brings. And the final one is that you can speculate on rising and falling prices, right? And that is obviously quite important that you can do that, because some cryptocurrencies will be overvalued at times, and you want to have the opportunity to benefit from these kind of moves, or you want to hedge your risk in cryptocurrencies for a period of time. And obviously that's also something you can do with CFDs, as they are capable of being used in markets where the price of a cryptocurrency goes up or down. So hopefully that was helpful. I make sure that the video is available in the educational section of the Blackwell website. Make sure you have a look at it a couple of times, because I remember this is all fairly new for everybody, right? And when I started looking into the topic, I had to go through it a couple of times to really absorb it. But I'm now there. I'm now much more comfortable with cryptocurrencies, started trading them. So it's exciting times, and I wish you all the best for your trading, and hope to see you at one of the other sessions. Thank you very much.